Hello, once again. Welcome everyone to Monday Night Roundup, your weekly show where we go through all of the action from the last week from the ADBBL. It's been a great week. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's survived the heat. I'll be doing great up until I have to go over game five. Up until that point, I think I'll be good. It's been a really interesting week. We've had the other four of our last 16 games have happened this week. We've also had, we then drew as soon as the last 16 game happened. We did the draw for the quarterfinals, which came out as we expected. And then on Sunday, we had our first quarterfinal game as well. So it's been a very busy week. 5 games to go through for you now. We've had a change at the top, a King of the Streets as well. We'll update you on that. And let's just dive straight in, shall we, to the first game of the week, which was our fifth last 16 game, and it was the Amazons versus the Lizards in what was a game that I was really struggling to call beforehand. I think the Scale Marys probably had. Difficult to say whether they had a better group stage than the Amazons. I think it was quite close, really. The Amazons had less points, but they also did miss one fixture. So going into this one, it was probably quite difficult to call. Having a look at how the game went down, the Amazons got off to a great start. Billy, the skink lineman, did what he does, fouling his way through the game, which he's been doing. He's high up on that foul list, is that skink with the dirty player. But a completion on turn 2 and then a early touchdown gave the Amazons the lead. And it looked like maybe this game was going to be quite back and forward, really. Both our teams, Lizards. You can quite easily forget that they've got those strength 4 Saurus, but those skinks are quick and you score in 2 turns comfortably. So, they go 1-0 down, but it's not a big problem for them. Look at the fouling on that skink. You give someone a player with that speed, with the dodging out, all of that, and dirty player, and just look at them go. Foul. Saurus then gets a casualty, takes out a lion woman. Not too much of a loss compared to the other positionals on the team. Foul, loads more fouls coming in for Billy, and a touchdown to bring it to 1-1 before the half is over. And then the second half, the Lizards fouled their way through it to a touchdown at the end. Having found out a bit more information about this game, it sounds like on both sides there was maybe each team had the same amount of a combination of bad luck and maybe doing things that didn't necessarily need to be done. And it happened in such an even way that it probably both coaches got away with it. I know that there was a scenario where the Lizards wanted to frenzy the ball in for a touchdown. I know that was an attempt which ended, I believe, in a double skulls. But then the Amazons had their own share of bad luck and misfortune in collecting the ball and getting it away so that the Lizards could still go in for the touchdown. So I think a very close game by the sounds of it. One that had one team or the other maybe not made a mistake or not had just that one dice roll, it could have swung the other direction. Well done, Chris, though, for his Amazon performance this season. Got out of the group this season and has put up a good fight in this last 16. Well done to David from the Scale Marys as well. First season playing Blood Bowl, first season in the league, not only making it through to the last 16 in his first season, but then making it through to the quarter-finals. It's a great achievement. We've got some really, really strong teams that have not gone as far as him, so got to give some credit to David there. Well done. And he'll be looking forward to his his quarter-final game, which we will have a look at what fixture that will be later on. Well done to you both. Let's move straight on. Let's fly straight through to the next fixture, which was Reptile Dysfunction versus the Vinzig vs Ice Baron. My games of Blood Bowl got off to an alright start. it's not going to continue that way. We'll see that later. But a really good game here. Going into it, we both went in on equal team values. And me and David, coach of the Reptile Dysfunction, had a conversation at the very beginning of the game where we were literally on identical team values, and I was all prepared. David was without a Saurus that was missed next game, and a Croxigore that was missed next game. The Saurus that was missed next game had been stat busted as well, and he had the money to replace it, and chose not to keep the teams level. And so we both went in with 11 players, and we both went in with identical team values. Whether in hindsight having that extra strength would have been helpful, I don't know. But it was a game where the Lizards kind of fell to the outcome that it is the way to beat Lizards, which is the Skinks by the end of the game were no longer on the pitch, and that is a tactic that I've been in tournaments where that's been used against me, and I've been without any. And as soon as you lose that pace, it can be very, very difficult. And I have to, before I go through this, I have to give so much credit to David here, who did not put a foot wrong in this game. Absolutely didn't put a foot wrong whatsoever. But the armor rolls that I was making were just consistently fantastic, way better than they should be for a rat team. Going into the game, I start with the kick, get a completion straight away, but actually then try and switch back and lose the ball, and don't manage to kind of capitalize on that. So the Lizards collect the ball, go down, score a touchdown, and take the lead against the kick. En route to taking that lead, they took out a gutter runner, badly hurt gutter runner. They lost two skinks in the process, but they did manage to get a touchdown. Rats, obviously, as we know, have the ability to turn things around and score very quickly. And, get a kill the chameleon, which I know David won't miss because he wasn't overly keen on it. Get a casualty for that. Get a Saurus blocker, goes down badly hurt, and get a touchdown on turn 7. And then turn 8, even get a casualty there. So we're level going into the second half, and I mean, you can already start counting the number of skinks that have left the pitch by this point. A blitz kickoff event allowed me to take out a skink immediately in the second half as well. It wasn't long, turn 9 by the looks of it, or turn 10, and all the skinks were off the field. And to David's credit, he held up that ball, succeeding on some pickups along the way with Saurus, which is difficult with AG5, and really did well to hold up the ball and make it very difficult for me to get the touchdown that I did get on turn 12. And then even then, at 2-1, it didn't concede defeat at all there. A touchback gave a Saurus the ball, which would make it very difficult to remove the ball from that Saurus, and again did a great job at moving the ball, got the ball within 2 or 3 spaces of the end zone to level it at 2-2, which would have been an amazing turnaround. Luckily, I had the players on my side. I had much more players on the pitch, able to swarm, get the ball loose, get it up to a gutter runner, and run down for a last turn touchdown at the end there. Like I said, I'm really happy with how I played in that game, and I think David honestly didn't put a foot wrong. The dice weren't in his favour, and the dice were in mine, and that's probably where it came to. So well done to David. Really, really great performance this season, and hopefully we'll see him next season, possibly with these Lizards, maybe with something else. It'll be great to see him back. I then move on to the quarterfinals, and the less said about that, the better. So let's move on to the Angry Arvakians versus the Numpties. Another result where we lose a former champion. James, with this redrafted team, really, really strong redrafted Chaos Renegade team, versus Elliot with his Dwarves, who before the season took Dwarves to a tournament and did exceptionally well. I think top 3 in the tournament, possibly top 2. I can't exactly remember, but great performance with this Dwarf team. And these guys met in the group stage. I'm going to remind myself now how their group stage results went, because I think actually that was a pretty close thing as well. Numpties won one of the group stage games, and I believe, if we have a look, Oh, I've lost the fixture. James won the other one. So, even split going into this game as to who's won what, and it was a tight game. It was very, very tight. A lot happening in this one. Mighty Zug comes in as well as a stunty superstar for the numpties. Early on, doing some fouls with the stunty superstar, getting a casualty there, taking out the renegade goblin. Fouling and getting sent off. The stunty superstar did not last very long in this game, but Mighty Zug gets another casualty. But the elf gets a touchdown against the run of play, and I believe gets pushed into the end zone to score. I don't know whether James wanted to stall or not, but gets pushed into the end zone to score, takes the lead against the kick. Go into the second half, Harry Slownose does what he's been doing all season, fouling, eventually getting sent off on turn 10, and then very, very, very key for the Dwarf team, taking out the Renegade Dark Elf, the big scoring threat in this team, Elven Quickfeet, out of the game, missed next game as well on turn 10, and then a Skaven Renegade badly hurt, a Renegade Human Lineman missed next game, and the touchdown comes at the very, very end, taking the game to extra time. In extra time, the Dwarfs get a touchdown on turn 16, turn 15, I think, turn 15, with 2 turns left. The you can see. Oh no, that's turn 16. I'm getting lost. I'm looking at the wrong thing. So touchdown comes for the Dwarfs. Various casualties and fouls on the way. Another sending off for a Dwarf runner. And the Angry Arvakians did actually have the chance to pull off the touchdown. They succeeded on the pass. They succeeded on, which was all 5 and 6s needed on the dice. Really difficult to do because heavily marked up. Succeeded on some ridiculous dodges that were needed. Had to do the blitz, and the blitz had to be a push or a knockdown. Had to be something that got them a step further forward in order to have the speed to get down there with some more ridiculous dodges. The dice were all going James's way at this point, but on the final turn, just rolled both down instead. And they had blocks, so they didn't go down themselves, but it meant that the movement left was over, and James wasn't able to, wouldn't have been able to, with the dodges, get all the way down there to get the touchdown. Really, really entertaining game from the pair of them. A great couple of coaches. James has put in some performances this season that are great. I would recommend anyone who wants to. I still think that the first game between these two, which ended 2-1, James just put in like a professional performance of how to get the ball in the right place, defend it well, score at the right time, do all this stuff, and then also being really sort of good and coaching to get the 2-1 result rather than the 2-0. It's a really great performance. I recommend you going to the YouTube channel and watching that one. So we'll miss James. We'll see him next season. Hopefully with this team. It would be great to see Harry Slownose and Siski Three Arms back for another season. And well done to Elliot. He's really, really nailed this Dwarf team in tournaments and other ways. He's done really, really well, and be really excited to see how far he can go now that he's through to the quarterfinals. So well done to you both. Moving on to our last game. This is the one that we streamed on Friday night. The Iceborne Raiders versus the Evolutionaries. John, no stranger to Elven Union, having to play them twice and won twice in the group stage. Phil, a brand new coach this season, not played much Blood Bowl coming into this season as well. Managed to get through to the last 16 in his first try, which was a great result for him. And this game was, in many ways, quite peculiar. It was really interesting, the kind of tactics. I mean, you can immediately see on tour play the way that things went. I think Phil went into this game with a very cautious approach. Arguably, possibly a slightly negative approach. But in the first half, very quickly just got completions in and was looking for the gap, and John had positioned really well with his line, slowly moving his columns of players forwards, and there were gaps to get through, but they required various dodges and quite high dodges to break through those gaps. And I think Phil decided that you couldn't see the way forward there. So, as you can see here, it was completion, handoff, completion, handoff, completion, handoff, completion, and just stuck with that. And he's racked up some SPP for his thrower. He's top of the list when it comes to completions at the minute in the league. And whether he was playing for the redraft, I don't know. But it was an interesting kind of decision to kind of play that way and not go for the breakthrough and instead kind of rack up the skill instead. So we went at half time. We went in at 0-0, and John received in the second half, and at points, you can see this on the stream. If you go back to watch it, it's on YouTube. This game, and the way that John had the ball protected in that second half, there was a big cluster of Norse around that ball. The ball, was loose every now and again. It wasn't like there weren't any opportunities. It would have been very difficult, and there were a few attempts near the end where attempts to break through, dodge through the gaps, get through there. Unfortunately, the dice didn't go the Elves' way to do it. Scored on turn 16 there. And one turn left for the Elves, weren't able to turn anything round. John will be happy. John is still joint up there with the least amount of touchdowns conceded this season. Only conceded 2, tied with the Tetanus Hotspurs. And I think if the Elves had maybe played a little bit more aggressive in that first half, maybe they could have found a gap and broken through. But not to take away from the performance, first season in the competition, getting through to the last 16, learning a lot on the way, I would imagine. So well done to Phil for making it this far. Hopefully we'll see this team redrafted next season. There are some really quite scary players in there for playing a good passing game. So I think he'll be looking to redraft, but we'll see whether we see them. But well done for a great season performance. And well done, John. Our only champion left in the tournament. We do not have any remaining tournament winner or league winner champions except for John. So it'll be let's see how far he can go. And that was our last 16 game. So we then did the draw. We did it straight away because we weren't entirely sure whether Tour Player was going to throw us a surprise. But it did what we wanted it to do. It did exactly how it was displayed on the screen. So the Wordhollow Wanderers, Simon, great performance from him in his third season. Really, really going for it. Up against Jason with the Greystone Gladiators, his first season in the ADBBL. So that'll be a really interesting matchup there. Simon does seem to be finding a bit of a groove with this Underworld team. But the Elves did a great job against the team with Rats in the last 16. So see what happens there. Numpties versus Graveyard Brawlers. Elliot versus Tom. That will be an interesting game as well. It'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I don't know who to put my money on there. I'd love to see those dwarves continue to plough on. But Tom has had some sort of good performances this season as well. So that could be a tight one. We'll see who comes out on top there. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. I'll just skip past it. And then the Scale Marys, after winning their game, face off against the Iceborne Raiders. I think that could be a really tight fixture as well. So it'll be really interesting to see whether the Lizards can kind of break through that Norse team. Whether John will target the Skinks, a bit like what happened to the Reptile Dysfunction team, we will see. So we had our first quarterfinal game. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, you start a season and you start doing Twitch streams and you start doing little 30-second recap videos and you stream your games and you do the roundups, and no one tells you when you're building a low-level local Blood Bowl League media franchise that when you then lose a game, you then have to talk about it not once, not twice, but 3 times. I guess it's a evil of my own making. An interesting game, this one. Me versus Scott. We've played each other a number of times in the past. We played each other twice last season. 2-0 win to me, 2-0 win to him in those games. Scott coming into this game, 7 games win streak. Me coming into this game, having just about got out of my group, but a good result against the Lizards. 4 wins and 3 losses. And there were a number of points in this game where I I think I had lost early on. I think there was an early on mistake I had done which lost me the game. It was very tight. For those of you who don't know as well, me and Scott are in the same D&D game. We have a trophy within our D&D game, which there are other people in this league, members, Sam and Jane, both part of this as well. A trophy called the Golden Gull, which someone has, and then you have to beat them to take it off them. So the Golden Gull was up for grabs here. Scott currently had that already, and I was there to try and take it off him. So some extra stakes for us to play for. And I got off to an okay start. Completion straight away. Struggled with handoffs and stuff because I immediately started to forget about the disturbing presence, which affects handoffs as well as passes. But got a casualty for my Rat Ogre, brand new to this game, and a casualty for one of my blitzers who have been really key for me this season as well, taking out some key players. 3 casualties very early on. And a mistake I made very early on is I had a gutter runner that, with its pace, with its sprint ability, could get in and cause a touchdown, and all I needed was a 3-up handoff, and then it would be 2-up dodges and rushes with plenty of rerolls to spare. And of course, Disturbing Presence made that handoff a 3 rather than a 2, and I rolled a 2 twice in a row. A big old kind of scrabbly mess ensued, and the Technosoc spews managed to get the ball, break down a little bit, but enough movement in the right direction, uphills blocks and things like that, managed to stop him scoring in the first half. On the way, we can see gutter runner Danny LaSquish gets killed and infected and taken over to the Nurgle team. I know on the stream, there was lots of talk about whether the stab was on the right player, because there was a pressed enough where stab was there, and then there's been a lot of chat afterwards about whether the stab actually has the same effect and causes the player to come back. We undid it. We did it again. It hasn't made an effect to the fixture, but Danny LaSquish is now part of the Nurgle team, and it'll be great to see whether he goes to someone else, if an undead team can come along and claim him. But I'll miss Danny. He was good. He had a good couple of skills on him. Second half, Scott positioned really well, broke through the line. The blocks started to go his way rather than mine, and managed to get the ball down really nicely tight. And he knows that Skaven can score quickly, so he managed to hold off and cage up nicely and stall through to score on turn 16. As much as I tried various blocks and dodges that I needed, and they just weren't going my way. That's not even to mention the Rat Ogre, who I've never played as before, and will probably never play in a Skaven team again, who rolled a 1 on, I think we counted 6 separate activation rolls. I say now, and anyone can cut this and play it to me in the future if I change my mind, I will never play a Rat Ogre in my Skaven team again. That's how much it has scarred me. And I think I made enough mistakes to deserve to lose this game, and I think I can't think of a mistake that Scott made here. The first half was definitely more of a challenge. I definitely had points where I had the upper hand, and I think a few different decisions had I made, I could have maybe gone in with a lead and taken it to extra time. But Scott played very, very well, has played very, very well all season. Joint with John at the top, only conceding 2 touchdowns, 8 wins from 8 going into the semi-final. Really, really strong performance. His second, I'd say his second semi-final in a row, his fifth semi-final in a row. I believe he's finished fourth, third, second, and second over time. So will this be the year that he manages to take a title? I don't know. Let's see. But all the best to him, being our first semi-finalist. And the Rats go away, and will we see them again next season? I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. But that was our last game. That was our last game this year. This week. We had some King of the Streets games happen. I don't have the updated graphic, but I can tell you that we do have a new person top of the King of the Streets ladder. Jane and the Inner Day Animals is sitting pretty at the top there, and we'll be hoping to fight anyone off who challenges her for that title. So get games in, try and climb your way up there. Someone challenge Jane to a game and knock her off the top spot. And see how we get on there. So well done to her. Well done to everyone who's getting in some games there. It's a much more kind of fun, relaxed scenario. Remember, you can play anywhere. You don't need to play at the shop for the King of the Streets. And that's it. That's it for this week. That's all of the games we're going to go through. Next week. So throughout this week, we're not going to have any more streamed games. I'm going to be on holiday for a few days, crying myself into a swimming pool. So we're not going to have any streamed games. We will have 30-second recaps, which we post on our Instagram and we post on the YouTube page. So have a look there for a 30-second recap on the fixtures that get played this week. So we will keep doing those. We may or may not do a roundup. I will still be away for the roundup. I might do it. It will be a slightly different roundup if I do it. My wife agreed to letting me do it while we were on holiday, but she had 3 glasses of wine and 2 cups of Pimm's, so whether that's an accurate depiction of me being allowed to do it, I honestly don't know. If not, we'll be back to normal after next week. We'll be then ready to bring you some semi-finals, obviously ready to bring you the final as well. More roundups, more reviews, all of this stuff coming your way. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you if you've watched this live. Thank you if you're watching it on YouTube afterwards. Thank you if you're watching this years in the future and you wanted to find out how we got famous or crumbled under our own weight. We will see you in a week or 2 weeks' time. So have a good week and we'll see you later.